Everyone. So in this section, we're going to talk about the core traits to succeed in remote sales. Okay, these are the personalities, the characteristics, the things you need to do and learn if you want to learn how to succeed when it comes to selling online. Okay, so sales success typically comes from personality and mindset versus technicals. Let me do that again. Sales success typically comes from personality and mindset, not really technical skill, okay? Because for skills, anybody can really learn skills. You can take a course, watch a YouTube video, and learn something new. But the difference between sales success and people who don't succeed in sales is not necessarily the technical skills. It really comes from the drive and personality of that person. So strategy and tactics are very easy to learn, but who you are, how you learn, and how you handle challenges, very important, takes more effort to improve, okay? So again, it's not the skills you know, but your tenacity and your relentlessness in wanting to succeed when it comes to sales, because you're gonna run into a lot of challenges, whether you're selling remotely or doing traditional sales. And to succeed in remote sales, there are going to be 3 important traits that you absolutely need to learn if you want to succeed. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is autonomy, all right? So autonomy basically means to be working from home. Wait, what the heck? Autonomy means to be working from home with the freedom to decide how you want to work and how you spend. So autonomy basically means to be working. So essentially, autonomy is going to mean to be working from home with the freedom to decide how you want to work and how you spend your time. Right? So your manager or anyone else on your team, your peers, they're not going to be watching over your shoulder telling you what you should and shouldn't do, because when you are working from home, well, a lot of times it's really just you in your bedroom or your living room or kitchen, and it's just you by yourself doing what you do on a day-to-day basis. So, to be autonomous and work productively, you really have to build trust with your team, right? Like I said before, no one's going to look over your shoulder. There's no culture or environment to kind of share with you and show you what you should be doing. You have to decide that for yourself. And because there is no one watching you and nobody can watch you, right? Because it's not like there's cameras in your room or anything. Well, you have to build trust with your team. You have to build trust with your manager or whoever else you work with. And you have to make sure you're doing the right things every day and that they can count on you to get the job done. When they cannot count on you and you do not build trust, then that's when everything kind of falls apart. But if you are autonomous and you're self-motivated and you build trust with your team and they can trust on you, well, that is going to be a key trait that you absolutely must need if you want to succeed working remotely. Now, the next trait that you got to have is accountability, all right? So accountability, when you're working remotely, you're going to have to take accountability and responsibility for yourself. This means that you cannot blame the system if something is not working for you. Now, a lot of companies, they may not be used to remote working, right? They may not be used to managing different employees and different people, without having a physical office. So a lot of times the system of how people communicate, how things are done, how they communicate what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis may not be perfect, right? It may be very flawed and even broken in some cases. But regardless, you have to realize that no matter what the situation is, you got to take responsibility and you got to take accountability, even if it's not your fault. And the reason why you want to do that is because when you take responsibility, you have more control over your success at a company. You have more control over the success of how many sales you'll get or how many meetings you'll get. And, despite having a broken system, you will always find a way. And that's the characteristic that is required if you want to succeed in sales, especially in remote selling. So if you make mistakes when you're selling, miss quota, you got to take accountability for that. Don't blame the fact that you're working remotely. Don't blame the fact that there isn't a culture or a proper system. Find a way, even if it's not your fault, right? Because, on the company's end, they're trying everything they can do to help you succeed, hopefully, and you're trying to do everything you can do on your end to succeed in this current environment. And you also have to be accountable for carving time to learn and develop new skills, okay? So You can't just, work every day on your laptop alone and expect to, just become superstar and learn new things. You have to also carve time to do that because, in the absence of culture, in the absence of people can, just coming by your desk and telling you things and that and helping you out, you got to figure out how you can do that for yourselves. And, you have to take accountability for your learning and development as well. And again, even if you are working within a broken system, you can always find a way to, develop yourself and learn new skills, okay? And the third trait that we're going to talk about is going to be time management. Extremely, extremely important. Extremely important when it comes to working remotely. So if you are working from home, does it really matter how many hours you work, right? It's a question for you. If you're working from home, does it matter how many hours you work? Because if people cannot physically see you working, how can they measure if you're effective or successful or not? Because they don't see you in the office every day. They don't see you at your desk. And the truth is, in my opinion, how many hours you work doesn't necessarily matter. To be actually productive, it's more important to focus on outputs and KPIs and results. So let me go ahead and explain to you a little bit more what I mean. So instead of focusing on how many hours you work, you want to pay attention to how much energy you put into your work and what you actually accomplish during a set period of time, whether it's in a day, weeks, months, years, etc. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you work, 20 hours a day if you're not getting anything done, especially if nobody even sees those 20 hours since you're working remotely. It's all about output. What is the work you actually get done, not how many hours you work. So typically in sales, you're going to have some KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. Now, these are going to be ways companies can measure how successful you are in a role and if you're doing a good job. So some example of KPIs in sales, right, if you're working in sales, include how many emails did you send, how many number of cold calls did you do, how many number of meetings did you have, or demonstrations or presentations, and total revenue closed, right? So these are going to be some main ones if you are a business or sales development rep or, a closer or an account executive. It's really just how many times are you trying to reach out to people, how many times are you actually having a conversation with them, and how many deals actually close in terms of how much revenue you are bringing in for the company. So, if you work 10 hours a day and you don't close any deals, well, you're not very effective even if you're working the hours. However, if you're working, let's say 3 hours a day, but you are the top performer at a company, well, I would rather have the person who's closing a lot more deals than the person who's working more hours and not closing anything, because it's all about the result that you bring for the company, especially if you are working remotely, because people cannot see your activity of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. But when they look into, let's say, their CRM, or they look into how many deals you close, they can see how much money you bring into a company. And so that's what you want to focus on. And the main important thing is you want to focus on results. So if you are ever lost, no matter if you are, let's say, a sales development rep, account manager, or account executive, and you're not really sure what you should be doing when you're selling remotely, the key North Star that you want to focus on is what results are you bringing in your role and what results are you bringing for your company. So if it's to generate meetings, how many meetings are you generating every month? If it's closing deals, how many deals are you closing every single month, right? Or if it's account management, how many deals are you renewing? How many clients are happy with your product and service, and report that on a monthly or yearly basis. So no matter what it is that you do within sales, focus on your results and try to get that number as high as possible, and you'll be able to be successful when it comes to working remotely.